When I went to Maui on my free flight from Northwest Airlines, I literally went with one suitcase. But on the way back, we had a container and 2 vehicles, and it was a whole different story.
So your first house you sold was your own?
Yes.
What was that like?
It was really stressful. Just because I think,
Your first sale.
It was my first sale, learning the process, but then also the emotions that went along with it. And I'm working on creating, this is very exciting, a podcast / YouTube channel with a couple other agents.
Really?
Jesse Carlson and Stephen Hong.
Hey everybody, we are here today with Shawna Joyce with REMAX Results here in the Edina office.
Yeah. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Shawna has been licensed now for 8 years.
Yes.
She was a teacher for many, many years before that.
15 plus years, yes.
Okay. And she's been with REMAX Results coming up on a year now.
Yes.
And we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm really excited to get into it. But also, Shawna, we got a personal disclosure. I know Shawna before she came here because our sons went to daycare together.
They did.
They were basically like identical twins from different families for many years, Mason and Anders.
Yes. So I've known you for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we drifted apart because our boys drifted apart and went different schools. And now we get to talk again, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. But now I got to learn more about you because I only know you from chatting at daycare. So you are a Minnesota native?
I am. Yes.
Okay. Where'd you grow up?
Let's see here. My whole family's from Stillwater, but then we moved to Oakdale when I was in high school. My parents are divorced, so my dad is out in western Wisconsin. So I kind of went back and forth.
Okay.
And then I went to St. Cloud State University for my undergrad.
What did little Shawna like to do as a young girl growing up on the east side?
Great question. Play school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, always. Okay. That was definitely my thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Sports, anything like that?
No, not really. I tried softball and volleyball in high school, but I didn't really like it, and I wasn't very good. So.
All right.
Yeah.
But then found your way to St. Cloud, and I'm assuming went for an education degree?
No.
Really?
No. So when I was in St. Cloud, I ended up doing a study abroad program. So I lived over in England for a semester.
Where?
And I fell in love with traveling. Alnwick, England. It's north. It's like 30 miles south of Scotland.
Okay.
So we were really far up there. We got to live in a castle.
Wow.
Harry Potter was filmed there, but I'm so old. I lived there before Harry Potter was filmed. But yeah, it was amazing.
What was the weather like?
It was in the fall, so it was cool, but no snow or anything. So yeah, the Duke and Duchess of Northumberland lived in the main castle, and we lived in the old servants' quarters. So it was really cool. We had class in the castle, and then would go do field trips and sightseeing. And
wow.
Yeah.
How far away is that from like London? Like
it was, I don't know.
Did you have to like fly there?
No, we took a bus.
Okay.
So I think like a 4-hour bus ride.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So got to travel then mainland Europe. And I was just talking to a friend about this. We did this back in the day before cell phones. So we just had the Let's Go Europe book.
Yeah.
And that was it, like calling hostels and trying to find our way around.
Right. Yeah. You know what? Yes. Okay. We're going to talk about this because, I maybe just a couple years older than you, but yeah, I went to Australia and same thing. Didn't have, had a book, no cell phone.
No.
I mean, internet was a thing, but it wasn't like it is now. And
right.
I just was like, hey, I'm going to the other side of the world, Mom and Dad. I'll call you once a month. And
calling card?
They were like, please come home. That was it.
Yeah.
So you got to see Europe?
Yes.
All right. What was your favorite thing that you visited?
It was all amazing. I mean, everything was an adventure. The Czech Republic was one place I had really no desire. I didn't know a lot about it at the time, but ended up going, and that was a beautiful city. So
Prague?
Yep.
Yeah. That old bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. With big in the clock, right?
Charles Street. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yes. Got to see a hockey game. We went to a hockey game in Czech Republic.
Ooh.
That was really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you didn't study traveling.
Okay. So I did the study abroad, and then I was unsure. I always wanted to be a teacher, but there was part of me that wanted to make a lot of money. And so I went away from education. And after studying abroad, I learned there was a new program called travel and tourism. So my goal was to get into like corporate travel, work for a large company, and had that up. So my major was geography with a minor in travel and tourism.
Interesting.
And then I also spent a summer in Guatemala with my geography cohorts. That was really cool, traveling rural Guatemala.
Where else have you been?
Well, then after college, I took a job as a flight attendant because I just really wanted to travel.
Oh, okay. Now you're
Um,
going to start really rattling off the location.
right. So I took a job, but a little foreshadowing. I was hired January of 2001.
Okay.
So I went through the training, had a couple amazing trips, got to go to Alaska, got to go to Hawaii, and then September 11th happened. So since I was so new, I was the first to be let go, which was fine because it wasn't a long-term plan. But
What was that like? I mean, were you in the air at that time?
I'd actually just gotten back from New York. I was literally standing at the World Trade Center on September 8th,
No kidding.
2011, just on vacation, doing some sightseeing, and then was back in Minnesota. And I was just getting ready to go to the airport on September 11th. And I remember getting out of the shower and the news was on, and then just watching everything unfold. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Did you have
Yeah.
people that you were trying to kind of reach out to?
Absolutely.
Make sure everyone was okay and stuff?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And so that had been, I mean, in a strange way, a little like COVID-ish, right? Where it's just like everything just stopped.
Everything stopped.
You didn't have a job to go to. You didn't really
Right.
know what to do for a while.
Mhm.
I think that we forget about how many months was it there was like no commercial,
Yeah. Good
right?
question. Yeah.
I mean, there was a long time there just after that happened that we just sort of had to digest that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did you do? I mean, career,
Well,
deciding what to do next with your career at that.
yeah, well, I had just graduated. I was just out of college by that time, less than a year. So I was living back home with my parents. And my boyfriend at the time had moved to Hawaii, which is a long story. But so after I was furloughed, he said, "Hey, move out here." And I said, "Okay." So I was with Northwest Airlines and they gave me a one-way ticket to anywhere I wanted to go when I was furloughed. So I got that one-way ticket to Maui.
Wow.
Yeah. So I lived out there for 7 years.
What'd you do?
I started off working in restaurants, and I did a little stint standing on the corner selling luau tickets for a very discounted price in exchange for clients to go listen to a vacation ownership presentation.
One of those.
One of those. Yeah.
Sales.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My first experience with sales.
Actually, and kind of real estate adjacent.
Absolutely. And then I ended up, that's how I started teaching. So I met some amazing people. Maui is a very small community once you take away all the tourists. And so I got to know a lot of people. And there was a small private school, and I met the secretary, and she said, "We really need substitute teachers." So I started subbing at this little amazing school, and they ended up offering me a full-time job, even though I didn't have a license in teaching at the time. And so that's how I started my teaching career.
Okay, so you, as a little girl, you said you were playing school. You wanted to
Yes.
teach. Are your parents the teachers?
No.
It's not,
No,
doesn't run
not
in
in
the
the
family?
family. No.
Okay.
No.
Just kind of a calling.
Yep.
So then did you have to kind of scramble and get your license and everything?
So I did go back to school. Yes. So I went back to school. I did some online school when I was in Maui.
Okay.
Yep.
So how long did you teach?
So I was there 5 years. I taught there.
Wow.
Yeah. Just a really cool small school, very different than here in Minnesota. Students would bring their surfboards and, put them outside. And I remember I would teach math, and I remember we had one word problem, and it was about hockey. And one of my students, who now today is a professional surfer, raised his hand and said, "What's hockey?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
You should have been here for the previous pod. We
Right.
covered it
Oh, did
very
you?
thoroughly. Yep.
So funny.
And
we had no gymnasium. Students just went outside with the PE teacher because it never rained.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What
Really
is
cool
it? I mean,
experience.
I've never been to Hawaii. I've been to some other kind of island countries that culturally, it is just so different.
It is.
Like, what do you remember about that? I mean, yeah, besides some of those things about, I guess, teaching and
Yeah.
the little things, but I mean, there's a different idea, I feel like, about community and
Yeah.
how
Definitely.
they support each other.
Yes. And again, it's a very small community when you take away the tourists. And then in addition, there's a lot of transient. A lot of people move there and don't necessarily have their family. So I found a lot of people to be very welcoming, and spent a lot of holidays and, just meeting new people, and at family gatherings, everyone was really welcoming.
And did you spend a lot of time ever trying to really understand the kind of unique world of real estate, how real estate works down in Hawaii?
Yes. So interesting. The guy I moved down there for, we ended up getting married. Now my ex-husband, he got into real estate
Okay.
down in Hawaii. And so I was with him during that whole journey as he got licensed and started working in real estate.
All right. Because there's not like a ton of land that's actually available for sale.
No, and the housing market is, I mean, it's very expensive to buy property down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And is there a lot of protected land from like protected
There are, yes.
forest land, but also there's tribal land too, is it? Or is that what it's?
There is some, and they have some like affordable housing to try to make sure it's affordable for natives because again, the price of the condos and the hotels and
Yeah.
vacationers really have driven the prices.
Yeah.
So
what brought you back? It wasn't the
family,
weather.
right? Definitely not the weather. Family. My daughter was born in
Okay.
Hawaii,
Okay.
Maui. So after having my daughter, just realizing, we really missed family and wanting to be closer to family.
Okay.
So
How was that transition?
yeah, it was by that time we had bought 2 different properties on Maui. And so selling those properties and, moving back, we shipped cars. And when I went to Maui on my free flight from Northwest Airlines, I literally went with 1 suitcase. But on the way back, we had a container and 2 vehicles, and it was a whole different story. So
Okay. And
yeah.
then, I mean, I'm assuming you came back every once in a while, right, to visit
Yeah.
family and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
probably not very much in the wintertime?
Right. No.
So
Well, we did come during the holidays, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, getting back to the winter, it was, yes.
Yeah. Was there an adjustment period where you had to get used to not having the sun all the time? And
Yes, absolutely. And just the wardrobe in Hawaii, the weather is very consistent. And so it doesn't matter if it's spring, summer, fall, it's usually 84 and sunny every day. So I definitely had to increase my wardrobe. I had to
Okay.
buy shoes again instead of flip-flops and coats. And
Have you brought your kids back?
one time, but they were very young.
Okay.
So it's on the agenda
It's on the list.
in the next year or 2. Yes.
Ooh, all right.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, lucky them. I'd tag along.
Yes. You haven't been?
I've not been.
Okay.
It's on my list for sure. It sounds pretty great. John Colby talks about it all the time.
Okay.
Yes, it's his favorite place in the world.
It is. Okay. Maui specifically?
Yeah, I don't know
Just
about
Hawaii.
Maui, but just Hawaii.
Okay. I'll have
Yeah.
to talk to him.
Yeah. So then when you came back here, you kept teaching
Yes. So when I returned here, yes, I got back into teaching.
for how long?
Well, a few years on and off.
Okay.
So, and then in 2014, we bought a house in West Bloomington. I was teaching. And decided I really wanted to move, but we didn't have enough equity in our home to do so. And so I had always been interested in real estate, and I thought, well, I'll just get my license so we can move because I wanted to move to Edina.
Right.
And so that's what I did. That's how I got into real estate.
So the first house you sold is your own.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was really stressful. Just because I think,
Your first sale.
it was my first sale, learning the process, but then also the emotions that went along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now, husband at the time was also in real estate.
No. So by this time I'm
Okay.
remarried.
All right. So now,
Correct.
that's what I want to.
Yes.
So now you're trying to make sure your husband says like, nope, you have to listen to me. I know what I'm.
Right.
I know what I'm doing here, and
Right.
there's that whole element too. Make sure that everything goes smoothly first sale. Okay.
Definitely.
I can see. I mean, I think everyone should in this business should. I realize people sometimes they're happy with their house, but it's like going through the process of selling your own home is really helpful.
It is.
To put yourself in the shoes of
Absolutely.
the stress and the uncertainty and everything else about that.
Absolutely. And the timing and the work and the prep and the packing. And it's
a
always
lot.
more work than you think it's going to be.
Yeah, and we need to remind ourselves of that all the time when we're in this, so that people are in that place of
Absolutely.
just fear
Yes.
and stress.
Yes.
Or just big ball of anxiety. So sometimes they call you and they yell at you. It's not your fault. They're just having a hard day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When I go through it, yes, and give sellers ideas on what they could do to get ready, I have to be mindful that all of those things take a lot of time and effort. Absolutely.
I know at a certain point you decided to take a step back from teaching and go full time in real estate. When was that?
Yes. So it actually happened twice. So one time I took a step back from teaching and worked with a builder. So I worked with a large national builder for a year and a half. And that was a great learning experience. I loved it.
Okay.
The hours were just really hard. My kids were a little younger at the time. So
a lot of weekends and
it was every weekend.
Every weekend,
Yeah.
okay.
It was very hard to get a weekend off. And it was,
Okay.
all day on the weekend. So.
Okay. And then that didn't kind of take, and then
So it was great. I absolutely loved it. I learned so much about new construction and the process of building a home. One of my favorite things was just learning from my construction manager about the process of building a home and getting to know all the people in the community. I loved it. But again, it just took too much of a toll on me being away from my family on the weekends.
Sure.
So I went back to teaching
Okay.
for a little while.
Okay. And then the second dive in.
And then the second dive in, I realized I love teaching, but I still get to put my teacher hat on in real estate.
All the time.
Yep. And so I just, wanted to get back full time.
And when was that?
So that was just last spring.
That was okay.
Yep.
That was last spring. And you chose REMAX Result.
I did.
Yeah.
And the reason I did is because of this podcast. I was at a very small company. It was a fabulous experience. But when I wanted to go full time, I knew I needed a lot more help and support on the business side of things. And so I was looking for a new company to join. And because I followed you on social media, because we had known each other, I started listening to the podcast. And I loved the idea of, I love learning. I'm always listening to books and podcasts. And so every time I listened, I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And so I reached out to you and said, who do I contact?
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad I did.
And I connected with Emily, who's also a former teacher, and you two just, hit it off.
And I met with Emily, and she's amazing. Yeah. And so I'm so glad I reached out. And it's all because of this podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
What else? I mean, it's not just the podcast. So ever since you've been here, what else have you reached or connected with, or whether it's people or systems or whatever, to get your career going?
It's definitely the people. It's amazing. And listening to the podcast so many times and hearing, we think differently. We really feel the sales executive is the customer, and I feel that every single day. I love having all the offices. I've been to the Plymouth office and the Brooklyn Park office and the Apple Valley office and the Crocus Hill office, and from the office staff to the office managers, everybody is so welcoming and always, how can we help? And I love that. And so that's been amazing. And then just all of the amazing people like Jane. And everyone in the office has been so welcoming and helpful. And
good job, guys.
So I'm so happy I'm here every day. I love it.
Like, what tools have you been using to try to, I guess, build up your business, build your systems?
Well, here at REMAX, I ended up attending a Glover U one-day event.
Okay.
And that's how I met the Huffmans, who are absolutely amazing and super supportive as well. And I've done a lot of Glover U trainings now, and I am a huge fan, and I love the strategies that they offer as well.
Okay, let's talk about that. So,
Okay.
are you officially using Glover as a sales coach?
I am doing some group coaching at the moment. So I don't
Okay.
have a one-on-one coach at this time, but
Okay.
I've been to 2 of their 3-day retreats, and I'm doing some group coaching.
Okay, so does that mean it's sort of like an accountability group where you're with other
It is
real estate agents from across the country, something like that?
a weekly live Zoom call with a coach who
Okay.
teaches on, so I've done some prospecting, and now I'm doing some marketing coaching. So it's a weekly check-in with a coach. They sort of run a class, but then there's also accountability groups that go with it.
All right.
Yes. So
Okay. So how long have you been doing that?
I started, I guess, in February,
Okay.
March.
What made the decision for you to take the leap and invest in that part of your business?
Going to their events, I just love their philosophy. They really start with mindset. I read a lot of self-help and personal development books, and I understand. I have a lot of anxiety, and so sometimes I can make up stories in my head. When I'm trying to call new clients, I'll be like, well, they probably don't want to talk to me, and so
okay.
I love the idea, Glover U. First, they say, it's really about your mindset.
Interesting.
And so it's really kind of training myself to have that positive mindset. I know I'm a great agent. And so just being more comfortable initiating some of those calls.
Okay.
And then they just give really specific strategies that I can implement, which I like. It takes the guesswork out. I'm not reinventing the wheel. And not only do they give specific strategies, but they've all been used and been found to be successful.
Has that something that you've always been aware of, your own need for mindset focus, or was that kind of something that just dawned on you one day, or how does that work?
Great question. I think I've just become more and more aware over time. And just exposing myself to different books again. I'm in the car a lot, and so I love listening. I don't ever listen to the radio. I'm always listening to a book on Audible.
Okay.
And I like listening to nonfiction books read by the author, because it's their own words.
Okay.
And so, I just found it to be really helpful. And
random question: are you a morning person?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, do you have are you a disciplined morning person where you have certain things in it that you do in the course of attacking every day?
I do. Yes. I get up, I have a gratitude journal. I write my gratitude journal every morning and write my to-do list and try to be intentional on what I'm going to accomplish during the day.
Were you doing
Yes.
that before Glover?
Yes, but not as intentional.
Okay.
Yes.
No,
Sometimes it would
not with
be
the purpose behind it?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So if you don't mind, like
Yeah.
morning routine, like what is the gratitude journal first thing in the
Yep. I'm
morning?
up 5:15,
Okay.
coffee, gratitude journal, make my to-do list, sort of set my intentions, what I want to accomplish for the day, and then I exercise. So this morning, my favorite is to go to Lake Harriet. This morning I met another colleague, Holly. We went for a walk. Usually I run,
Okay.
or I do my exercises at home,
All
and
right.
then get ready for the day.
All right. So what time does your day start?
I would say 8:39.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a little earlier, but I do have kids.
You got to
so
get them on the bus.
Yep.
During school in the summertime.
Breakfast and
it's impossible. Okay.
Yep.
All
Are you a
right.
morning person?
No,
Okay.
and I should be,
Okay.
but I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I gotta figure that out because there's times where I am, and then I get tired, and then I don't set my alarm, and then I'm way off base. But I like being a morning person.
Yes.
Especially in the summer. I think it's harder to do that in the wintertime.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
it's so
like
dark.
in the summer now, wake up, get in the sun, get on a walk or a run as soon as possible. I love doing that. But
Okay. Now, are you a runner?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I never was before, and then in the middle of the pandemic, it was like Forrest Gump. I just put on my shoes and ran out of the house, and I was gone for 2 hours. My wife was like, "What happened?" I'm like, I just had to get away from you guys, and
I
then that
just felt like
started it.
running.
Yeah, but
I love it. Any
yeah.
races?
Oh no,
Oh,
I'm
no.
not that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just for exercise.
Okay.
You?
Yes.
Oh, really?
I love running.
Okay.
Yes. I did not in high school. It happened later in life.
Okay.
But
So
yes.
what kind of distances are you doing?
Well, currently I'm 3-4 miles. Yes.
But racing wise, like
I have.
5K?
I've done 2 fulls.
Really?
I've done probably a dozen halves.
Where?
Yes. Grandma's was my first, but this was years ago. This was like 10 years ago now. And then I did Twin Cities, but I've done several halves.
Okay.
I just did one last year in Stillwater. So
You got plans to do another one?
not yet. Not yet.
Do you
But-
train for them, or do you do formal training, or do you just kind of?
No. I look online to see. I primarily look to see like my long runs.
Okay.
So on Saturdays, I try to keep my long runs on pace, but
Okay.
I probably don't run enough during the week. But
So what do you on a Saturday? Do you set a goal to run like 8 miles, something like that?
well, if I'm training for a half, I'll follow the plan. So
Okay.
it starts off with 4 and then 5, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But right now, I'm just not running that far.
And nonfiction books the whole time?
No, I have to listen to the radio when I run,
Okay.
or music.
Gotta have music.
Yeah.
Me too. So what are the things from real estate coaching or Glover you kind of putting a little bit of a why behind maybe some things that you already were doing in your morning routine?
Mhm.
Other things that you're taking away from that coaching experience?
Just so many different strategies, and really, trying to create the best experience for my clients, for my customers. My goal is always to create lifelong clients and customers. And so coming up with more of a system as I get busier, I want to make sure I'm not letting things, fall through the cracks.
I suppose there's 2 tracks, right? You got your business as you're working with active clients.
Yes.
You have to serve them, make sure every single deadline, everything all the way from first consultation and showing all the way to closing, right?
Yes.
And then a whole different track of
Keeping in touch.
building a
Absolutely.
sphere, maintaining your sphere, and everything else.
Yes.
Those are 2 different things you're juggling at all times, right?
They are, yes.
And is it kind of always a tension between the 2 where you prioritize?
Yes, I think so. I think it's sometimes getting caught up in what needs to get done today. And so I've been much more conscious of I need to plan out my days a little bit more intentionally. So I still have time to check in with my past clients and make
Okay.
sure everything is, that they're still doing well and keeping in touch.
Are there any things that you are you finding challenging that you're looking for a solution to a problem right now in your business?
I think just creating the systems to keep track of everything. I like to be active. I like to do. So sitting at a computer and, inputting data or making sure I'm looking at that, to me, is the hardest part.
Okay.
I just like to be out meeting people and looking at
Yeah.
houses. And
Are you using a
Yeah.
CRM right now?
I am.
How's that go? Which one?
I am. Well, I am using Follow Up Boss.
Okay.
But I'm working on getting switched over to KV Core.
Okay.
So it's, again, just making that time
Yeah.
to sit down and dive in.
Yeah, because ultimately the data is only good as how accurate it is, right?
Correct.
Or the system's only good as the data, and the data,
Right. The
So
best CRM is the one you use,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right.
and that has to be a challenge, right? To just dedicate the time
Right.
to that, right? Because you can't do it just on a whim every single second, right? Do you have to just have a set amount of time that you say, I gotta spend some time in
Yes.
KV Core right now?
Yes.
What does that look like on a weekly basis? How much time?
I haven't done it. I haven't spent a lot of time yet.
Okay.
I really love the collaboration here, though, at REMAX Results. So 2 weeks ago now,
You're just transferred, like
just
okay.
yes. And so
I gotcha.
a few of us got together here downstairs, and we watched some of the training videos together. I
Mhm.
feel like instead of, all of us sitting and trying to figure it out on our own, it's so much more fun
Yeah,
when we can work together.
yeah, and that anytime
well-
you migrate from one platform to the other, there's a lot of redoing, but it's also kind of a good opportunity, right, to like
Absolutely.
re-examine that contact and update it, and
Absolutely.
yeah, some of the I imagine Glover, you had talk about, were you in Michigan for that the last Glover U Summit?
Yes.
How did that go?
Yes, it was absolutely amazing. Again, it was very inspiring and motivational. But it also, I left with a notebook filled with strategies and tactics and tips and tricks I can implement in my business right away.
Okay, so this isn't a commercial for anyone coaching, by the way, but we I just watched the Buffini,
I watched that as well.
kind of half year thing. And I thought there was some good takeaways. Obviously, some of the things about the market, it's educated guesses.
Mhm.
What was your takeaway from, I guess, from the Glover University perspective? What the end of this year is going to look like going into 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, great question. So at the Glover U event, we got to hear some amazing speakers, but one was Dr. Lawrence Yoon.
Oh, okay.
He came on.
Chief economist for NAR.
For NAR,
Yeah.
yes. And so he was there remotely. He was there via Zoom,
Mhm.
but talked about the interest rates and what he thinks is going to happen with the end of the year. So similar to Buffini, that interest rates will maybe stay the same throughout the end of the year, maybe go down a little bit and then go down next year into 2024.
Okay. So the hope would be we'd see, I guess, more favorable interest rates that would be a little bit, they talked about certain people just saying they don't want to sell because they don't want to lose their interest rate right now.
Right.
Which is an interesting philosophy,
Mhm.
right? Because people have 18% credit cards and they don't bat an eye, but
Right.
I mean, but at the same time, at a certain point, your house becomes too small. Right.
Right.
Which we both, I think,
Right.
experienced that personally, right? In our
Absolutely.
lives, and in both of our moves from Bloomington to Edina.
Absolutely.
We both had to do it because our families were getting too big and we couldn't handle that smaller house, right?
Absolutely.
So at a certain point, you still have to make those moves. But I think from a business perspective, a more, moderate interest rate will help.
Yes.
And it seems to be common amongst a lot of these coaches and researchers and everything else that 2024, 2025, they're all looking ahead to that.
Correct.
Which is a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Good thing to be looking forward to.
But the market may be a lot busier
Right.
next spring, which means the prices of houses might go up a bit.
Right.
Be more competitive.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about doing now to plan for maybe a more busy, robust, competitive 2024?
Great question. So just making sure I really have my systems in place so that when I am busier, I can handle all of my clients, to the very highest level.
Yeah.
And just making sure I'm continuing to reach out and build up my client base.
You're a friendly person. I know you're developing relationships with other agents, but sort of ways to support each other when life happens and kind of planning ahead for that.
Yes. Again, I absolutely love the collaboration. Someone on the Huffman's team on the Good Life group, John Hodnett, he and I do some role playing together in the morning. So he's been an amazing resource.
Okay.
Holly and Maida, we have an accountability group. So we check in with each other. And I'm working on creating, this is very exciting, a podcast / YouTube channel with a couple other agents.
Really?
Jesse Carlson and Stephen Hong.
Okay.
Yes.
What is that? Are we allowed to talk about it?
Well, it'll be coming soon. We haven't launched it out to the world yet, but our goal is just to bring some real estate information, to be infotaining, to give some information, but to have some fun with it.
Yeah, Steven's got all the tech, right?
Oh my gosh.
He's got all the stuff and okay.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He is a wealth of knowledge.
That'll be exciting.
Yes.
All right. We
So
got competition. What you're telling me is you're going to try to take over my airspace.
Yes,
huh? All right.
I'm coming.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Well, that's trouble.
yeah, we're really excited.
Cool.
So-
So that's happening this summer?
Coming soon. Yes,
Or
later
fall?
this summer. Yes.
Okay.
We don't have a launch date yet. We want to make sure we have a few episodes ready
Right.
to go.
So what is something personally that you're excited for with just in your life that's coming? Just kind of curious.
Yeah. It's a transition right now a little bit with my kids getting older. So my daughter just got her driver's license about 6 months ago. So this is a whole new
Okay,
phase
look
of
out,
life.
Adina.
Right? So we have a third driver in the house. So I do have 3 kids, 16, 13, and 8. So they're just getting a little bit older and more independent. So looking forward to doing some more traveling and really want to go to Banff.
Really?
Yeah. Have you been?
No,
Okay.
but I've heard. What summer, winter? When would you want to go?
Summer.
Okay,
Yes.
and you fly there?
That is a good question. We were just contemplating this.
Okay. Well, what is it about Banff? Besides not knowing how to spell it, it's so interesting.
Or how to get there.
Yeah.
Just the scenery. I mean, I've just
Okay.
seen some of the photos of the mountains and the lakes and
Yeah.
as the kids are getting older and just to get out and hike and do things with them.
Yeah. Well, guess what? We got to hang out more because my kids are 17, 13, and 8.
I
So it's like,
And your youngest was born on the same day at the same hospital as my youngest. Remember
that's
that?
right.
Yeah.
That is okay.
We saw each other at the hospital.
Yeah. Well, you and Katie were occupied. You
Well,
had
yeah.
other things going on, but
The
that's
kids,
right. Yeah,
I
the
think,
kids.
I think Mason saw you.
That's great. Yeah, that's right. But as they get older, things don't get less busy, to
No.
be clear, but
No.
they are more capable of doing more, I guess, different things than when they were in strollers and
Yes.
stuff like that. And so
Absolutely.
but it's like now it's like trying to keep up with them.
They have busier social lives than I do, for sure.
For sure. So it's nice having the driver because she
Yes.
can shuttle them around to stuff.
Absolutely.
That is helpful.
Yes.
Built-in Uber.
Right.
Well, that would be, Banff. Okay, be cool.
Yes. And there's I mean, a long list of places I would love to travel to, but that
Mhm.
one's on the top of the list.
Do you have any specific career objectives or goals that you're looking for? Maybe not this year, like, whether it's this year or next year, something like that personally, or I should say professionally that you're wanting to
Yes.
hit?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I definitely am working on increasing my business. And so I have goals, for the next few years on where that I want that to be. And then ultimately to be able to help train agents would be my ultimate goal. I mean, I love putting my teacher hat on. and
You'd be
just-
terrible at that.
I would just love that. And so, I mean, that's my ultimate
Yeah.
goal. Absolutely.
Everybody here would amazingly benefit from that for sure. So,
Thanks.
okay. As we close up, is there anything or anyone in particular, maybe not just one person, but that you'd want to acknowledge or give thanks to who's been instrumental in you reaching this point in your professional life?
Oh my gosh, there's so many people. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be here at Results. So I thank you for connecting me with Emily and for bringing me on. And I'm very grateful of my husband, who's been very supportive of my several, changes in employment. So he's a big cheerleader. So I thank him for that.
He's a good guy. And those kids, they support you too, right?
They sure do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you probably already hinted on this, but I think part of planning and having a mindset and everything else is having a why.
Yes.
So what is your why?
My why is it's my kids, it's my family, it's being able to have the freedom and to have experiences and create those for my kids, to be able to travel and
See the world, bring them along.
absolutely.
Yeah, impactful, pretty, something I think we all would like to do, but
Yeah.
you got to put the work in to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the most powerful things I heard was at a Glover U event. I got to hear John C. Maxwell speak. He was amazing. And he said, so many people come up to me and say, I want to do what you do. And his response was, are you willing to do what I did to get here? And I thought, that just really hit me in that, when I look at a lot of people I look up to in this business, they've already put in a lot of hard work. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm here to do.
Well, I don't want to stop you, so I guess I'll let you go off and start your own podcast and But we'll look forward to hearing more from you there. And Shawna Joyce, thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.